What's up, YouTubers? Johnny DIY here. Today we're going to be changing out the brake pads and rotors on the Toyota Highlander, but it's going to be the same job for pretty much any Toyota, Corolla, Camry, and pretty much actually any car that has calipers and rotors, disc brakes. Okay guys, if you're new to my channel, do me a favor, click the subscribe and the bell so you can get all my new videos. Alright guys, let's get to it. Let's go ahead and put our emergency brake on. Then we'll go ahead and chalk the tires. Then we'll go ahead and jack up the car. And we can lower the car down onto some jack stands for safety. Now we'll go ahead and take the wheels off. Alright, so let's go ahead and work on the front rotors first. Since we're going to be taking off the rotors, let's go ahead and give it a nice little spray of WD-40 or any of your rust penetrant right here around where the hub is, because you can get kind of locked on the rotor to the hub. Let's go ahead and open up the caliper and remove the old brake pads first. And to do that, there's a caliper bolt right here. It's a 14mm on this car. And we can remove that bolt. Then there's actually a 12mm back here that holds the brake line in place. We'll go ahead and loosen that up too, so that we'll be able to have enough working room. Alright, so with that top bolt removed, we should be able to open the caliper up like a clamshell. Go ahead and put a bungee cord right here. Wrap it up to the strut tower up here, just to hold it so we don't stretch this brake line. With it open now, we can pop these brake pads out. Just flathead screwdriver. Just pry it out. Then there's one on the back too. You just do the same thing. They just come right out, see? Alright, now on this car you can go ahead and pull the slide pin out now, and we can inspect that. Just pull it out. We just go ahead and pull it out, wipe it off. Then you're going to want to put some of this brake lubricant on the pin. These need to slide freely, or your calipers will seize up, so you just put a little grease on them every time you inspect your brakes or change the pads. Just rub it on. Do it to the top and the bottom both. We do stick it back in that boot, move it back and forth a couple times, make sure it's moving freely, push it in. Let's go ahead and pop out these brake clips too. Check these out. Now if these brake clips are really worn, you can just go ahead and replace these, or get a wire brush and at least clean them up, because they can get kind of gunked up and they won't let the brakes move as freely. So just go ahead and clean them up. Some of this brake parts cleaner. Then you just remember how they go back in and you snap them back in. I'm going to go ahead and clean them both off, or like I said, replace them. They're only a few bucks. We'll go ahead and close our caliper back up, put that bolt back in. We'll go ahead and loosen the second caliper slide pin and do the same. Loosen this one up, take it out, and we'll clean it off just like we did the first one. And we're going to loosen these big mamas. These are 17mm here top and here bottom. These are the bolts that actually hold the caliper on. You need to get a breaker bar on these, because these ones are tightened pretty good. Damn, these things are tight. First one out, then do the bottom one. Go ahead and have your bungee cord ready. See, we'll go ahead and hang our whole caliper assembly by the bungee. Now we can get at the rotor. Give it a few whacks with a sledgehammer and a piece of wood. Should come right off. Then I like to put a little anti-seize around this hub right here so the new rotor doesn't rust onto the hub. You can go ahead and put a little on your lug nut studs too. Alright, now we'll get our new shiny rotor. They coat these with oil so they don't rust, so go ahead and spray it off with some of your brake parts cleaner. And then rub it off. Get that oil all off. You know, I forgot to mention, you can take your old rotors and have them machined, turned again. You can usually have your rotors machined once and reuse them. You just got to kind of price it out and see which one's a better deal for you to do. And we can go ahead and set the new rotor on. You use one of your lug nuts, put it on the bottom so the rotor doesn't fall off. Alright, now we're going to take the whole caliper assembly off of our bungee cords, and we're going to put those two 17mm back in that hold the caliper. Go ahead and put a little anti-seize on those 17s too, because they like to seize up. We'll just snug those 17s down. We'll torque them down in a little bit after we put the pads in. I'll go ahead and take that top caliper pin out so we can open it up like a clamshell again so we can get the new pads in. Alright, now we got to compress the caliper piston before we put our new pads in, because our new pads are going to take up more space. So you can go ahead and you can just squeeze it in with a C-clamp, or even if you have some big channel lock pliers. But I've got this little brake tool. I'll go ahead and put a link in the description to that, and you just use an old pad and we press it in. Just do it in nice and even pressure, and we're just going to press it in until it bottoms out. Once it bottoms out, we can go ahead and take it out. See, now our piston's all the way in. Now we can get our nice new pads, and before we put them in, we're going to want to put a little of this brake grease, the same stuff we used on the caliper pins. We're just going to put a little on these ears of the pads because they come in contact with our brake clips, so keep them from making any noise or binding. Just a little on each side. We just slide those little ears right into our brake clips. Careful not to get grease on any of the surface on the pad. And for that back pad, you can go ahead and put a little grease right in the middle of the back of the pad where the piston's going to hit it. Just carefully slide it into the back. Once you snap the pads in, we can go ahead and close up that clamshell now. Put that top caliper bolt back in. We'll snug those down. Alright, so now we're going to torque those big 17s down, the caliper mounting bolts. Those go to 77 foot-pounds. And then those two little slide pin bolts, those only get torqued to 25. There we go. Don't forget to put that little screw that holds the brake line onto. Alright, now that's it for the front. Double check your work. Go ahead and don't forget your bungee cord. Give it a final cleaning with some brake clean. Alright, now these back pads and rotors, it's the same job. These are just a little smaller, and the torque specs are a little different. But we'll go ahead and take the 17mm caliper bolts, the ones that are holding the caliper on. They're just back here. These are the caliper pins, and then right behind it are the mounting bolts. Just take each one of those out. Get our bungee ready again. Slide the caliper, hang it from our bungee. Now we'll need to take the emergency brake off so that we can get those rear rotors off. Give the rotor a couple taps. Hit it from behind. There we go. Sorry, I'm kind of losing light here, but go ahead and give everything a nice spray down with your brake clean. We'll go ahead and do the same thing to our back rotor, clean it all off, get all that grease off. Alright, now when we put this back one on, we got to line it up with this little adjusting hole right here. It needs to line up with this adjusting hole for the back parking brake. Alright, so then we just put the rotor back on, and we put those two 17s just like we did. Just snug those down. Then we'll take out that top caliper slide pin so that we can open it up. We'll just open it up just like a clamshell like we did before. Now it's the same thing. Pop out the old pads. Go ahead and clean off your clips and lube your pins. And we'll go ahead and snap in the new pads. Actually, just replace these pads. So these are good still. Don't forget to compress the caliper piston in some so we can fit those new pads on. Alright, now we can close up that caliper. Put our lube slide pin back in the top. Now our two slide pins on the back, these get torqued to a different value, 32 foot-pounds. There we go. Then our caliper mounting bolts on this get torqued to 58. So it's worth noting that the different caliper sizes use different torque specs. So go ahead and check your manual, or a quick Google search, you can find this information. Alright, now that's pretty much it. Now before I put the wheels back on, I want to mention that with new brake pads and rotors, you want to do a process of either brake bedding them. That leaves a thin layer on the rotors. What you do is you do about 10 stops from about 50 miles an hour down to 10 miles an hour. and it's going to leave a thin film of the brake pad onto the rotor, and that's going to give you better stopping power. Or if you guys don't want to do that, you're going to want to take it easy on the brake pads for probably around 500 miles or so, just so that they'll seat into the rotors. They'll get mated to each other and give you some good stopping power. Now let's put our wheels back on. Now once you got it off jack stands, don't forget to torque your lugs down to spec. This car is 80 foot-pounds. Okay, now before you drive it, go ahead and pump the brakes till you get a nice firm pedal. And go ahead and turn your emergency brake, put it on and off a few times to readjust the rear parking brake. Alright guys, and that's it. That's how to change your pads and rotors. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, go ahead and subscribe and click the bell so you can get all my new videos. Alright guys, thanks for watching Johnny DIY. Keep on doing it yourself. Take care.